Previously on One Tree Hill. No, I have always wanted to do that, but no, seriously. Last week, just kind of one recap of what we talked about last week. We talked about the impact of social media and computer and how damaging it can be, like your webcams and such. And it's they have been more destructive than productive in my personal opinion. Um, I just had to say that because you can't introduce with previously and not come with something that you talked about previously. But always wanted to do the previously on One Tree Hill or any show because it's just kind of adds a little drama. I'm not drama free, even though I try to be, but that's something I've just always wanted to do. But now on to Lessons from Tree Hill Part 3. Um, it's not so easy to get into the ring with someone who's knocked you out in the first place. Now, something I was thinking about today is life is very much like a video game. They're like, wait a minute, Casey, what are you talking about? I'm about to get into it. You know how you start on as you go, it's easier levels. As you get older, it and then once you get past one level, it gets harder and harder and harder. Same way with our spiritual walk with Christ. As soon as you conquer um, a struggle you're dealing with, it almost seems like immediately here comes another one. You look at what? Oh no! But no, you're it's very easy to get afraid. And the funny thing about it is, your new struggles that you deal with, you get your butt kicked the first time, and it's easy to get fearful of it because when you walk into a new struggle, you're like, okay, I've seen God work before. I know I know He is faithful, but when you're going through the next struggle, you forget how faithful God is, and that like the story of the disciples when he like the five loaves and two fish and four loaves and a few fish, um, and then they talked about the leaven of the Pharisees. We forget how the goodness of God when we get into the next struggle that we face. But and so the phrase learn without getting burned, hard to do. I've gotten kind of good at getting burned one time and looking at it, say, okay, I will analyze the situation to death and break it down and make sure that those kind of things do not happen again. And so it's the wisdom of God more than my wisdom because I think, oh, it has to be this way or it has to be that way. God break helps me break down even more. But yeah, that it's but the thing about that is, faith over fear. Fear fear will take you out at any point that we allow it. Choosing to walk in faith it shows that okay, there's two acronyms, like you face everything and rise or face everything and run. And quite frankly, there is really only one answer, and that's face everything and rise. Um, because it's false evidence appearing real. But here's the but yeah. So I mean, here's the thing with that is like whenever you choose to walk in faith, like okay, God, give me the strength to endure this. And the thing that we're afraid of really wasn't as bad as we thought it would be. Um, Next, we all have regrets, but some of us have time to change them. Now, the things we look at in life, like we that we want to change, we we can we can change them if God. I mean, if we allow God to do so. If we if we have the humility to look at them and say, yeah, what did I mess up? How could I do better? And allowing God to give you the strength and the wisdom as to what to do, and you again walk in obedience and not fear, so you could so you can change them. There's no worse feeling than loving someone who isn't loyal or doesn't have the same feelings for you. Now, we kind of addressed it briefly last week about how if a man feels need, like if a man loves a woman but does not feel um, but she doesn't fight for him, or she loves a man and the man does not fight for does not fight for her. That is a horrible feeling. But you wanna have someone like by your side who wants to see you succeed as much as you want to see them succeed. That's not just man and woman. That's life as well. Live life for the moment because everything else is uncertain. Now this is a um, even scripture. It says, "Don't worry about tomorrow because sufficient to the day is the evil thereof." So we've gotta live and take care of what God handles us. God gives us to handle today. You can't run away from weakness. You must fight it out or perish. Now, one of the things that I love about the song "Serve the Lord" by Carmen's music video is on the bridge when it says, we have made our decision, we have stayed our claim, we have drawn a line in the sand, and we won't be ashamed. With the world behind us and the cross before, by the grace of God, we will serve the Lord. The lady is running on the railroad tracks, and a train is coming. And when she I've always taken that as what we're running from our problems. We are trying to avoid them. Problems are going to come, and they're going to catch up with us whether we face it or not. But the best thing for us to do is turn around and face our problems head on, and not and learn what we need to, what God needs us to learn from them, and so that way we can grow as people. If we try to avoid it, the problems will overtake us, and that is not a good thing. That's not a good place to be, because if you don't deal with your problems in private, um, your sin will become public. Your sin will find you out. So it's always best to face them head on. You become the popular who defends the if you become the popular who defends the outcasts. Never let notoriety change who you are. Now, this is one that is so. I mean, it's so true because I mean, and I've seen it. I've seen it play out personally as well as in the in leadership positions. when you become popular, when you become like someone that everybody likes, it is so easy to forget who you are. And this is a lot of what happened with Lucas and Mouth on One Tree Hill. Like Mouth was Lee Norris. If you didn't know, he also played Minkus on Boy Meets World. But yeah, in my opinion, he did a better job playing Mouth on One Tree Hill than Minkus um on Boy Meets World. But in all fairness, he had one season playing Minkus on Boy Meets World. So and he had 9 years on One Tree. So it's pretty easy to think that way. But no. But anyway, my point with Mouth and Lucas was they did let notoriety affect change who they are as it pertained to their relationship with Jimmy Edwards, which is why he got to the point where he did, and where he became bitter towards everyone. um so it's so when you so it's always important to not let popularity change who you are. And that's also the same way with being a leader. Is like is you have a goal of being a leader, and you forget that the most important thing isn't the notoriety. The important thing is the people you are leading. It's like you don't let your people go astray. And that's a hard balance to learn. But yeah, again, with God's help, you can um, do what you're called to do. That's what makes you the happiest. Now, and this is like I kind of have a story with that too, because I remember being called to be a youth pastor back when I was like 14 years old, and I did the whole Jonah thing, run from God. I wanted to be something more, notoriety, popularity. I wanted more prestige. It's a trap. Every single person can very easily fall into it. And I ran from God for a good 10 years, and actually no, it was like no, yeah, yeah. I started turning around, yeah, but the finality was when I got ran over by a truck, which was about 12 years being knowing that I was called to do that. Before I started turning around, and I declared war on the devil and said, okay, I'm going. After I got ran over by a truck, but but yeah, like when you do what God calls you to do, you are the happiest. So it's like, so when a person, I do think it's, some people say it's bad advice, some people say it's good advice, but finding out what you're passionate about, finding out what you love to do, um, is important. Before you, I mean, like asking yourself that, for those people who are watching this that are in high school going to college. It's a good question to ask, but that way you're not spending lots of money trying to figure it out, going into debt. And before you realize, if you realize it going into, I mean, if you have to go to college, at least you know what God what God is leading you to, so that way you can keep pushing for that. But but yeah, the things that you love to do are the things that are going to bring you to life. It's going to, you won't feel like you're doing work. You'll, you'll find a lot more enjoyment, even when there are ups and downs throughout the journey, because there will be. But you'll find a lot more enjoyment when you're doing what you're called to do. If you are looking for reasons to not be with someone, you'll always find it. Give the heart what it deserves. Well, I will say this: like, there is a saying I remember hearing when I was a kid. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are right. And and that's the same way with people. What you are looking for, in a person, whether it's a positive or a negative, you will always find what you're looking for. And so it's important. I mean, to change our mindset, it's important to ask the questions rather than assuming, um, because the old phrase is is true. It's like, you don't judge a book by its cover. Just because you think you know doesn't mean you actually know. Um, because people can and do prove you wrong. People can and do prove me wrong all the time as well, and that's a that's a pleasant thing and a not. Depends on who it is, but it's if you have your heart open to be proven wrong in a positive way, those are the people that change your lives for the better, for sure. You've got the survival part down. Now it's time to focus on the living. Now that's a phrase. It's like, I think Peyton's mom told her that, and the fact of that is, like, we in this society get so, when we're caught up in what has happened to us, we um we focus more on the on what's on surviving. But when we focus on what God has for us and overcoming those, that's when we can focus on the living. um Regret makes you old, and bitterness poisons the people around you. Yeah, very, very much so. Um, if you're a bitter or unforgiving person, it it's going to cloud people's like the people that God put in your care to, to influence in a positive way. It's going to cause them to look at life in a negative way. And so it's important for us to walk in forgiveness, so that way we can see see the best in people. Because I would rather get burned by people, because I want to believe the best in them, um and then find out that, maybe there's not, or maybe there well the like okay, you get burned, like, okay, maybe I believe too much the best in them. But that actually gives you opportunity to pray for people. If you believe the worst in people, and then they show you good, um you really, it's harder to see. Yeah, what is it? It's hard to see the forest from the trees. That's the old saying goes. You're so caught up in your trauma, so caught up in your bad experiences, that you can't see the good around you. And that's not a good place to be. I have been there, and it's just not fun because you rob yourself of good relationships with people by doing it that way. So if I'm going to err, I'm going to err on the side of being believing the best in people, and the Bible says that love believes the best. Um, then it's like, okay, if they do something that hurts you on that, you have specifics and what to pray for. So it's like, it's a checkmate move, because it's like, okay, I'll go to God. And he never loses, so checkmate. But anyway, don't be bitter about life's disappointments. The greatest rewards come from doing the things that scare you the most. I remember hearing, what would you do, like if you were not afraid. So it's basically, if you if you yeah if you weren't if you weren't afraid, like, okay, what's the decision that you would make? It's like, so it's basically, it's more or less a challenge to do what's right, even when what's right does make you afraid. It's doing the right thing when you don't know the result. Courage. Yeah. Speaking of courageous, um I like the, of course, I like that movie because of the I anticipate, like, on the Snake King scene, um every time I watch it, that, the character that Hispanic character, I forget what his name is at this point, but, like, he he does a Snake Kings thing, and the guy next to him, like, was antsy to get to jail. I've never seen somebody be so excited to go to jail in my life. But no, it's but no, I just like, I just like that part. But anyway, but let's see. Do a little rabbit trail. But anyway, everyone's afraid, and they just hold to their cliques to hide it. Now, that was something that Jimmy Edwards said right before he, in the, what is it, um the time capsule scene, or the time capsule episode. And it is true. It Being afraid is not, like, there's nothing wrong with being afraid, but it's not living there. That's the important thing, because we all are fearful. None of us are fearless, as much as we may try to be. But no, but yeah, it's important. The biggest thing that separates greatness from ordinary is the ability to allow God to help us conquer our fears. Um, I don't care how successful he is. I just want to know how he is going to treat you. That's a common thing that good fathers will tell their daughters, is that money does not matter. I mean, yes, money is a means to an end. It pays your bills. It buys your food on the table, gives you the roof over your head. Like, and it buys you, some of the wants that you want. But how you treat others is way more important than attaining money. And even being a parent, shows that. I mean, I'm not one, but I've seen a lot from being the oldest of nine, having what, nine nephews and four nieces, is that kids don't care as much about money as they do about your time. They and like they want to be treated well. Your spouse wants to be treated well. Everyone wants to be treated well above all else. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about money, because the more money you have, it seems like the more selfish and the more mean you could end up being. Not always, but it in general it does play out that way. The phrase "let the game heal you." Now, we kind of addressed that briefly last week. Is things that you enjoy doing, your hobbies. Don't ever let the struggles of life um, take you away from the things that you love doing, because we all need something that we do that helps us, like, escape the craziness of life. If we don't have that, it drives us up a wall. Now, are we talking north, south, east, west, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest side? I have no idea, but it drives us up a wall. But anyway, but yeah, so it's always good to have a hobby that you enjoy doing, that you can escape the craziness of life. Real life marriage never ends up like the movie or romance novels. If only it did, but it doesn't. I mean, you know, if it did, I would be married by now, but it it doesn't, because there's no knight in shining armor that's coming to rescue you. Um, there's it doesn't work out as smooth as that. Both I mean Relationships take work, and both people make mistakes along the way, which is why it's very important to forgive. Okay, that's the 8,895th time I've said that in the year and a half I've been doing these podcasts. You've counted? No, I'm just guessing. But no, it's a very important point. Forgiveness is huge. Um, let's see. Acting out of I'll try this again. Acting out of desperation never works out in your favor. Now, just like acting out. I mean, you can link acting out of desperation with acting out of in a hurry, because you always forget something. You always there's key information that you don't gather that you need to, so it doesn't work out in your favor. Do what's right, even if the sacrifice defies the rules of self protection. Now, this is really, this is really, gets into the whole self protection. A lot of times is um associated with revenge. Not always, but it generally is commonly in line with that. 'Cause, like, but yeah, when it's like you want to do what's right, even if it means you're not protecting yourself. You do have to protect yourself. It's important to set boundaries, but but doing what's right is always more important. um if you don't face your mistakes you that you made, you will never change. Now this is true because if the my pastor said, like, when I was living in Wichita, my pastor said one time, actually he said several times, that if you think the problem is out there, that is the problem. And so it's like, and the point that he was trying to make with that is you cannot change the problems out there. You cannot change the problems within anybody else but you. When you have issues that you are dealing with, it is best for you to work on your issues so you can more clearly help others with theirs. But but yeah, you've gotta face the you gotta face your mistakes, learn from them, so that way you can change and not do them again. But it's only through tests that you discover who you are and who you can be. Now this is a hard one. This is a hard one to swallow and um and and come to grips with, because it's only, because like it's really only through our limitations. It's only through our struggles that we realize, what, with God's help I can overcome this. You get into the like, as I was saying earlier, with the different, like, your different levels, like kind of a video game. God, because God has more faith in us than what we do in ourselves, and that's something that we forget to understand. But but he wants us to trust him. But he operates from a standpoint of, you can do this because I'm working with you. Then you can't do it. He doesn't have a you can't attitude. Like, well, the Bible does say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, or which strengthens me. And the thing is there are some people that say that's not contextually accurate. There are things that you can't do. Um, I mean, yeah, if like bad, like if you're trying to go out and say, oh, I want to go and kill this person, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Nah, God's not going to tell you to go murder somebody. Um, Now he did in war, but that was a case of like wiping out an entire people. Because he knew their heart. I mean, you look at this. Saul with the Amalekites. He lost his kingship because he didn't obey God. But that war is a different animal than individual. Um, but for the most part, when God tells you, when yeah, when God allows you to go through tests, it's to like develop your more of a trust in God, that he's able to help you through and show you that within him there is no limit to what you can accomplish. Both the guy and the girl have to fight for the relationship for it to work, not just one party. I addressed that earlier and also last week. You can't hide from life. You've got to live it. That's that kind of goes back into live by faith, not from fear. What would happen if women listened to warnings men told them rather than assuming they have ulterior motives? Now, I have a example from One Tree Hill, um, and then a example from my personal life, because like I still like um, it's always been a baffling thing, but when you look at the um warning that Nathan had that Nathan told Haley was Chris Keller. He didn't trust Chris Keller, like I mentioned last week, and so he said, I don't want you to work with Chris Keller, and so he set a boundary there. He never said you can't go and do your music. Just like God set a boundary when in the Garden of Eden when He says, "Don't eat from this particular tree." Well, it's like um, Haley did not listen to Nathan, and it almost cost them the relationship. But it's the same thing too. Like my personal life, um, a thing that annoyed me probably more so than anything when I was like head over heels for a woman with 16, 17 years ago is I've always had a heart for people. I'm usually pretty good at detecting signs. you know, um, by the grace of God, detecting patterns. But whenever I would let the girl know um, that she would assume that the only reason I was doing that was because I wanted to be with her. I'm like, no, it's our job to not withhold good from somebody when it is in the power of our hand to do it. So if we notice something, and even in Ezekiel, it talks about if you see somebody going into if you see warning signs ahead and you don't tell the people that are about ready to face it, then their blood is on your hands. But if you warn them and they don't hear you, and then you're free of the guilt on that. And so it's a lot of times we do that for people to watch out for each other. It's like because that's what we're supposed to do. Um, but yeah, it's like assumptions. Assumptions are destructive. I have done it. I did do a post on that early on, but yeah, it's like just trusting like trusting the people when they warn you, saying, okay, they have my best interest at heart. um like we do have to learn the hard way sometimes, but and that's, if we hear a warning and we don't listen to it, because we have to learn the hard way, that's on us, not on the people who warned us. But anytime someone gives you money for a specific purpose, the person giving you the money can dictate the terms. Now, most commonly, um, in a church setting, because I've seen this in the time that I was doing bookkeeping for my church, back 20 years ago. People can put on the memo line, um, children's ministry or youth ministry. If the ministry does not put that money towards that purpose, they are wrong. But but that's the thing with lobbyists is like, that's the kind of the lobbyist that is it is a good thing. You want ministries that you're giving to end up being benefited by it. But where it's a bad thing is, there are some political lobbyists that say, "Oh, don't talk about this or don't talk about that," or because if you do, you'll risk losing funding from me. And like those are the bad lobbyists because you don't want to withhold the truth from anybody. You always want to tell the truth, even if it hurts. But whenever you make a deal, you can't go back when the deal doesn't benefit you. The deal is a deal. Go all the way with it. And I think that the part that um, Nathan, Dan sold the car to Nathan. Nathan used it for something else. He sold it for um, yeah, he sold it, and Dan was gonna go and buy it back or something like that. Which he was in the wrong for because it was no longer his. So yeah, it's so once something is yours, or once you buy something, it's yours. And the person that you buy it from no longer has any say in what you do with it. Fear is like a disease. If you don't deal with it, it'll eat you up. Yeah, I saw the impact of that when I was with the coronavirus, because people could be so afraid of the coronavirus that people actually ended up getting it because of it. And so so there are times where anxiety can cause you to get that very thing. That's why it's never good to live in fear. The world backs off when you make it back off. I mean, and this looks different for different people. Like I used to, um, you can say that about bullies. Bullies will back off when you make them back off, but sometimes you can use that. You can do that with words. Sometimes you have to use force. Sometimes you have to get creative. It's it's thinking one step ahead of your opposition. Um, and again, the Holy Spirit gives you the wisdom to do that. If you try to do that in your own strength, it won't work. Manipulation always comes with the question, how far will you go? And what happened? With the with One Tree Hill, the bookie was basically wanting to see how far would Nathan go, and Nathan was counting on them keeping their word. But the thing is when you give the enemy a loophole, he'll keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And so you have to be definitive and forceful to get him to back off. Now forceful with this ended up where he stood up and in probably the most, no, I'm gonna say it's second most unselfish thing that Nathan Scott did, when he passed the ball to Lucas for the three that won their One Tree Hill the state championship. The reason I say that second is because his being unselfish, which got someone into the NBA before he did, which I think was really cool. But yeah, the how far will you go? He basically stood up and says, "Yeah, no, this ends here." You can do good for a bad reason or bad things for a good reason. Now, the best example I can think of with this, because I actually did was involved in a young adult ministry with my old church, and we were at a downtown coffee shop in Wichita, and God did not lead us. Like, God did not tell me to to go back to the church, and so I would have. So if so, doing the right thing would have been standing up to the leaders. But even when the leaders said, "Yeah, go back to the church," but the problem was it was still underneath the umbrella of the church, and so even had I stood up, um, they would have been back at a later date. And so whether that's a right thing for the wrong reason or wrong thing for the right reason, or it was the pure right thing to do, is determined. Well, I mean, determine on your perception, but underneath, but knowing what I understand, actually, not like now that I'm talking it through with you guys, um, it probably was the right thing to listen to them anyway, because I mean, yeah, it did. The ministry did fold after that, after going back to the church. But if leaders don't support you, if they don't have your back, it's it's not going to do you any good anyway. So it's like, so yeah, you can do the right thing for the wrong reason, or the wrong thing for the right reason. You need to figure out how to tell the right people about important issues. Um, I mean, again, I guess that goes back to the warning thing, when like being able to share what's on your mind and not and yet I guess that's probably the best way to put that. Oh yeah, the abuse, bullying, bookies, etc. I think if the um, players would have, if Nathan would have told Coach Durham, I'm sure Coach Durham would have handled the situation in a more proper way, um, so that way um, that way like the guy with Dante wouldn't have died, and in the car crash, and Haley and Lucas hadn't gone to the hospital in that scene. Which, if you haven't seen One Tree Hill, that's what season 4 I think it is. But I recommend. I mean, yeah, it's like I recommend watching the whole series. It's awesome. But yeah, second chances are good. Sometimes they surprise you. Is sacrificing what's right worth the cost of the sacrifice? Not doing what's right. It's like, you know, yeah, that was when when like I said, with what happened with Lucas and Haley. But yeah, when you do what's right, you stand up for what's right. I mean, yeah, it's like it's best to do that from the get go, so that way it doesn't get people close to you in trouble. Um, let's see. People getting what's coming often comes with a price. Pride gets in the way of a lot of good things. Let's see. Be friends like before is a foolish statement. We are constantly growing, so where we are will never be as before, but hopefully better. Now, this is a key thing, because I've heard this statement many times in my life. Is I want to be friends like before. That's not a good place, because you're either growing or you're dying. And the whole idea of friendships is you want friends that are going to grow together. And the starting place, you'll never go back to that point, and that's okay. Um, and that's actually encouraged, because it's like, okay, it's good to look back and say, okay, remember when, but moving forward is and growing as people is way more important than the comfort of what used to be. But yeah, that is it for this week. I will we'll do a part 4 next week. I'm thinking I could probably do the rest in like 2 weeks, but we will see. um God bless you guys. Have a good week. Let me know what you guys think, what I could have done better. Like, subscribe, and all that cool stuff. But have a good week. And happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.